Thank you. Thank you for being here with us live. This is a really, really special time and event. And I'd love to take a moment to thank you for being here. Everything it took to get here, right now. And I'd love to take a moment to acknowledge our inspired author, the ultimate mother, Amy Hardison, for writing this beautiful Bible of Being, Book of Being, the ultimate coach. Could you hold up your book if you've got it? Yes. Fabulous. Thank you. And Alan D. Thompson for listening to the nudge and being persistent and in researching the book and asking Steve, and their magnificent commitment to creating this Book of Being. And also Ron and Mary Hulnick, Doctors Ron and Mary Hulnick, which the founders of the University of Santa Monica, which is the chapter we're reading today. And sorry, I'm just making sure I've got everyone that I want to acknowledge. Steve, of course, Steve Hardison, was named the Student of the Year in 2001 at the University of Santa Monica. And him along with Ayanla Van Zandt and Dana Dunbar were named Student of the Year in Masters of Psychology, Spiritual Psychology. No, I think I got that right. Anyways, it was the highest honor at the University of Santa Monica. So I want to acknowledge all three of them for that, and being examples of excellence in being. And so the book
Tanya, we lost her.
Uh-oh. Okay. Let's give her a second to see if she pops back in. There she
There
is.
she is.
that's so funny. Okay, that was Spirit, Universe saying get on with it. And I'm glad to be here, and I've lost my notes, so I'm just going to wing it. There we go. Yes. So the most important thing is to acknowledge, thank Martha for being here and honoring us with her presence. She's going to be reading for us, and Martha is also a graduate of University of Santa Monica. How cool is that? So can't wait to be with you and experience you reading for us. Thank you for reading. And so yeah, this is our sacred space, and I invite you now to, since it's Thanksgiving for you all in the States coming up, I invite you to just take a moment and think of one thing, one person that you're really grateful for, and just hold them in your heart for a moment. All right. Well, I think that love you have for that person, they are, that is in your heart, they are very glad to receive your, to know that you think of them that way and have created them that way. So please stay there. And okay, here's the thing about, the last thing is that when you read about you today. This is about you. And when you listen about you. And when it comes time to share, please share your experience about you. And if we get off track, we'll bring you back and gently, and that's yeah, that's important. It's all about you. And I just remembered something, an acknowledgement that Steve made of me, and he said, "You're a stalwart," and I had to look it up in the dictionary what stalwart meant. And Doctors Ron and Mary Hulnick wrote a book, Loyalty to Your Soul, and so it's something along the lines of being loyal and true to your soul. So with that acknowledgement of being true to ourselves, I'd love to now pass it to Tanya so that we can enjoy this experience.
Thank you so
Tanya.
much. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. I love that, being loyal to your soul. What a beautiful acknowledgement from Steve. Well, we are about to get started, so I want to thank everyone for being present here, for doing all that you've done to be here and now to be fully present. I would love for all of us to take a nice deep breath in and exhale. I would love for us all to do that one more time. Take a nice deep breath in of loyalty and love to your soul. And hold that. And as you exhale, exhale gratitude for the loyalty and love to your soul. I'd love to see who does have their book today, because I would love to find a reader for the back of the book. And before you begin, the first 2 pages. So is there anyone particularly who is being called and you say, that is me? I would love to see your electronic hand raised. If that is you, if you feel a calling to do that today, the time is now to raise your hand. All right, Vanessa, thank you for volunteering. And I see Elizabeth also. Beautiful. Elizabeth, would you like to read the Before You Begin by Steve Hardison? And we'll have Vanessa read the back of the book.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
great.
Beautiful. Excellent. So then that's how the flow of the call will be. We'll go from Vanessa starting, and then Elizabeth, you'll flow straight into the first 2 pages of the book, back or of the front of the book Before You Begin, and then we'll flow straight into Martha for chapter 19 of the University of Santa Monica. But before we get started, I'd love to acknowledge this moment that if a particular question stands out to you from the back of the book or before you begin, and it's just really standing out today, if you would like to acknowledge that and just allow it to sit with you and be with you throughout the reading. And if you feel called to share that in the chat, we welcome you to share as well. All right, Vanessa. So we'll go ahead and get started with the back of the book. Thank you so much for volunteering.
Okay. Dear potential reader,
As you may have not noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I've been told that the only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you.
Before you begin, Steve Hardison, note, thank you for reading the back cover and the first 2 pages each time before you read this book. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend, Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being, and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work that I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it's endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison. P.S. Remember, every time you reread this book, please read the back cover and the first 2 pages before you begin. If you do this, your experience of this book will be totally different.
Chapter 19, University of Santa Monica. Steve had struggled with his anger his whole life. Lloyd's work helped. So did the forum. But there was still a lot of work to do. Steve started searching. He found the University of Santa Monica. In 1999, Steve enrolled in USM's Masters of Spiritual Psychology program, where he met Drs. Ron and Mary Hulnick. In traditional universities, students expand their horizons and gain valuable knowledge through lecture and study. They hone their intellect through papers and projects. USM does all this and has some dimensions that traditional education does not. At USM, you learn and you heal. You are one of the textbooks. You are the case studies. Your life is the homework. Steve brought one behemoth of a case study to his very first weekend. Behemoth, by the way, means colossal. First class. 5 days before Steve's first class, the phone rang early in the morning. It was Phil, Steve's brother, calling about their older brother, Rob. He said, "I don't know any details, but Rob called and said Shara, Rob's 19-year-old daughter, had been killed. I'll call when I know more." Killed? If she'd had a health crisis or been in a car accident, wouldn't they have said died or been in an accident? Steve and Amy paced and cried and wondered. An hour later, they got clarity, but no relief. Shara had been brutally murdered by her ex-husband. Steve immediately flew to Utah. He held his brother and sister-in-law. He cried with them. He took over the funeral preparations that they weren't ready to deal with. He helped manage the people, flowers, and food that came streaming into their home. He did everything that could possibly be done to help Rob and his wife, Debbie, and then flew out on Friday straight to USM. To start Friday's night's class, Ron asked the students why they were there and what they wanted to get out of their USM experience. There were the expected answers. People wanted to become better husbands, wives, fathers, and mothers. They wanted to be better listeners or kinder people. They wanted to kickstart their careers. They wanted to heal. They wanted to move forward. Then Steve shared about his week. Steve's classmates responded with shock, sadness, and outrage. Then Ron spoke. He explained that we don't know what agreements we made before we came into this life. We don't know what people need to learn. Everyone, Shara, her ex-husband, Rob, Debbie, Steve, and even those in the room at USM, all had something to learn from Shara's death. On the first day, in the first hour, Steve's perspective took a massive shift, and he still had 2 more years to go. The Amy Project. One of the first assignments Steve received at USM was the Manifesting Your Heart's Desire project. Fellow student, Dr. Carla Rodering, I hope I pronounced that right, recalls. His goal was to know his wife in the most intimate way available on the planet. Despite the fact that they had been married for a long time, despite the fact that they had 4 kids, he wanted to know her more. And he was willing to devote his entire year to that. He took notes on how she exercised. He witnessed the research that she did and the way that she wrote. He watched her teach. He followed her around at the grocery store. He realized he had no idea how much milk cost. No idea. I used to ask him, "Are you stalking her?" And I think he was. And I think he does. I think he stalks her for her wisdom, love, beauty, grace, and joy. And what did Steve learn from this project? I was stunned at all my I was stunned at all my wife did and all she managed and how well she did it. Not only is she beautiful, kind, and loving, she is eminently capable. I realized that I had won the wife lottery. But didn't he already know that? Absolutely. But Steve says, it is so easy to lose sight of those things in the midst of everyday life. My Amy project at USM didn't just remind me of what I knew. It created a shift in my being so that I will never take her for granted. The student. Steve is continued to make a difference, to share, to inspire others, to be noticed, and to become personally connected with whoever is leading an event or course. He could walk up to the President of the United States and feel he has every right to talk to him or her, and that the President is lucky to meet him. It is his signature confidence. It is part of his power. It is why fellow USM student Lisa Haisha says, Steve really intrigued me. Anytime he spoke, he had something intense to share that I think helped shift everyone. He had a beautiful way of tapping into whatever the conversation was in the room and then taking it to the next level with his sharing. It is also why Steve was named USM Student of the Year in 2001, along with Dana Dunbar and Ayanla Van Zandt. Steve loved his experience at the University of Santa Monica. He reflects, one of the greatest things I got from USM was a principle called heart-centered listening, which means that when I'm listening to a person, I'm listening not just with my ears, but also with my heart. I'm trying to get where they are coming from, instead of judging them or being right. It changed how I listen to everyone, from the people I love the most, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, to strangers, an employee at the car wash, or someone in the grocery store. The most powerful tool I acquired for USM is compassionate self-forgiveness. It works like this. Perhaps I think, Amy doesn't appreciate me. It's not a pleasant thought. I can take that thought through the compassionate self-forgiveness process. I breathe it in. I realize I'm the one judging her as unappreciative. She's over there happy as a clam, and I'm upset because I think she isn't appreciating me. Then I forgive myself for judging my wife as not appreciating me. My frustration leaves, my world becomes peaceful. I introduce compassionate self-forgiveness to all my clients. We work miracles once they see the judgments they place on themselves and the world. The result is personal peace. Lifelong learning. Steve completed his courses at the University of Santa Monica in 2001. In addition to USM and the decade immersed in the teachings of Werner Erhard, Steve spent 2 years studying the Enneagram with Dr. David Daniels. He and Amy participated in several Enneagram courses. Steve's learning is not restricted to formal courses and programs. He reads and studies extensively about belief systems, personal development, and the creation of personality. 2 of his favorite self-directed courses are A Course in Miracles and The Way of Mastery. He also reads the holy writings from different religions. Steve's oldest son, Clint, provides an insight into this part of Steve. He doesn't study academically. He studies for experience. He studies to expand himself. I've seen my dad constantly working on himself my whole life. Consistent growth and improvement seem totally normal. I don't think he ever read a book to be a better coach. I think his coaching is an outgrowth of who he is as a person. He has been driven to become a better person. His coaching is just the natural manifestation of that.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you for such a beautiful reading. Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you reading for us today. Truly, I cannot wait to get to you for your beautiful share as well. But we'll all have to hold tight just a minute as we're going to come around to Vanessa first. So thank you again, Martha. Vanessa, would you like to share? Is there anything present to you or with you today that you'd like to share from our reading today?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Martha, for reading. Well, something that makes me think about someone with whom I just experienced frustration because he just left when we finish a conversation, is this part that says, "Then I forgive myself for judging my wife as not appreciating me. My frustration leaves, my world becomes peaceful." So I think that I have to work more in this compassionate self-forgiveness. Especially right now with this person. That is what I'm thinking right now about this. I just feel like hot right now. Okay.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Not right now, maybe later.
That's okay. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing you with us, Vanessa. Thank you. Elizabeth, would you like to share, honey?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Yes, I always appreciate, of course, the back cover and the questions. And I probably hear the question the most of who would I need to be to live an extraordinary life? Seems to cover everything for me, just to make every moment extraordinary. And I think that struck me again today. And then in the chapter, there were so many things. So first of all, I was thinking about how artfully Amy writes and how generously everyone contributed to Alan for her to be able to write this. And that these chapters are so short and they're so powerful. They're so packed with these highlights that are extraordinary. And so there were many, but I think at the very end, it's the idea of the perpetual student learning, growing, expanding, not to be a better coach, not to be have this end result, but to just expand our being and that in and of itself expands into wherever we focus our attention, whether that's being the husband or the wife or the parent or the coach, whatever it is. But if we're open to that kind of learning, growth, expansion from wherever it comes, books, courses, the people we meet at the gas station or the car wash, whatever it is, a course at university, it's our gift to ourselves. And it just shows how Steve just immersed himself in these gifts to himself constantly, and that allowed him to grow into his being the being that he is, and for each of us to for me in this moment to expand into just whatever is right now. Right now, it's you and this book reading, and I'm just very, very grateful. Very grateful.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for such a beautiful, soulful share, really, bringing it back to here and now. And I resonate with so many things you said. So thank you. Thank you for your share. Miss Martha,
Mm,
hi.
The privilege to be here and be able to share some of my thoughts around the experience of this chapter and the reminder of what Steve and I shared, certainly not during the same period of time, but through the curriculum that we went through. Going through University of Santa Monica was not for the faint of heart. Not only was the work that we had to do rigorous, the amount of paperwork and readings that we had to do, aside from the academic, but the rigorous work that we had in session when we met in class. Because what we were asked to do and were invited to do was to take the academic and actually put it to practice in the classroom. That looked like different than most people would imagine it to look like in an actual lecture or an actual auditorium. It was actually putting into practice what was going on in our lives based on what we were learning academically, and exponentially inviting us to go inside to shift our being, to heal the wounds that perhaps had not been healed in our lifetime. And so my experience was mind-blowing at the beginning and changed my whole life after the 2 years. And actually, I went on and got I went in for another year, a third year, and it was called Conscience, Health, and Healing, because it got more involved with the healing process in our lives, physically, learning about our physicalness and how we could heal. Anyway, so it was 3 rigorous years. What did I get from it? I read this and I feel like I'm in the classroom. I read this and I see myself with Steve talking to Dr. Ron and Mary Hulnick, who are incredible human beings. I think about the project that he did. My project was to walk across Spain. And why did I do that? Why did I choose that as a project? Actually, that project, I think, chose me. It chose me after I read a book written by a famous actress, and I can't think of her name right this moment, that she did the walk across Spain. It was a pilgrimage, and I decided to do it, never having walked 500 miles, yet alone 5. Never gone backpacking in my life, yet having to prepare for a backpacking trip. Never traveling alone away from the United States, so in Europe, and not knowing what to expect other than what I had read. And what I learned from that experience, I walked across Spain, over the Pyrenees. It took me 6 weeks. What I learned was how when we set our heart to it, when we're clear on what we want to do, the pathway opens and we're able to move forward in whatever direction we choose. And that always sits with me. Whenever I'm afraid to move forward, I think about that adventure and I go, if I could do that through rain and cold and heat, then what's keeping me from moving in the direction that I want to head now? And I guess lastly for me is really implementing heart-centered listening absolutely. And compassionate self-forgiveness that has become, it's my mantra whenever I find myself judging myself or judging others. It's just my opportunity to get back into my heart and into my soul and realize that the judgments are not allowing me to be in that loving space for myself or another. So thank you for letting me or inviting me to read this chapter, because it brings it all back to the reality that I'm walking USM every day. Thank you, Tanya. I'm complete.
Thank you, Martha. And I want to honor you truly for all of the courageous steps that you're still taking, like every day. You truly are. You inspire me, and your heart-centered listening. You are that. You bring so much to the community and to the team TUC, into my life. Through your heart-centered listening, you have blessed me so much with your presence. So I just truly honor you and thank you for your courageousness. Like, you're still creating, and that is so courageous and beautiful to me. So
Thank you,
thank
Tanya.
you, sister.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd love to invite anyone from the community who would like to share. If you have insights that were created through the reading or even through other shares, I invite you now to raise your electronic hand, and we would love to have you share. Rebecca, do I see that you want to share?
Nan has her hand up, but I'm happy.
Okay.
But I will
Oh.
also after. I will.
Okay. Well, Nan is pointing to you first.
Okay. Nan, I love you. I didn't have my hand up, but I was feeling such a deep desire to honor you, Martha, for your deep presence. I can sit in your presence and you don't need to say a word. And I feel so at home and like just so full of love in myself and from you, and just filled with love and fullness in life. And you live life. You're a person that I watch. I just observe you both. I've gotten to meet Martha, and also just I observe you and just living your life to the fullest and not having it seems to not have limits. And I didn't know that you did the pilgrimage. It's on my list and I will go. I've been planning for several years and it's going to happen within the next couple of years. And I'm going to be talking to you about that. I truly know that when we let go of judgments, because in this last year, letting go of judgments has changed my life, like my self judgments, and also and judgments of others, and expanded me to levels and layers of me that I had no idea were possible. And so I'm a testament to that we can love so much more when we let go of those judgments, and they come up again. Like you think that I've let go of those and they can come up again. So it's like that continuous, that process of I forgive myself for judging myself, and it works. And I saw this video recently, and I'll send it if people want me to. It's this beautiful woman speaking about an African word that is a concept of forgiveness, and it means holding a space for. And my coach also told me, and I love this because I feel like for my clients, I hold this and it's like, I can forgive you before you do. So it's like, if someone can sit in the presence of you as you're forgiving yourself, it's this beautiful way of being held in the space of forgiveness before you're even ready to do so. And we can do that for ourselves too, but sometimes we can't. And so having a friend or a coach or someone that can witness with us and hold that space, that concept of forgiveness is like, coming to a newness within us. So I love all of you. It's a gift for me to be here with you this morning. And Martha, I honor you, and that's why I'm here today, is to see your beautiful face and all of you. Thank you, Tanya, and also Andrea, for hosting today and all the time that you put in your team. Love you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm so excited to hear about your new adventures, and I honor you for all of the work that you have done through your forgiveness and self-forgiveness and all of your courageous acts that you have created and continue to create. So happy to see you here. I missed you too. I missed you. So, welcome. Miss Nan, I'd love to hear from you, sweetheart. It's good to see you too.
Oh, it's good to be here. I just knew I needed to be here today. I want to thank Andrea for at the very beginning when she said to think of someone, and actually the person was myself. And what I promised at that moment to myself to be there fully for myself, because I'm wrestling with something right now. And it's the kind of wrestle that, like, the only thing I can compare it to is like 28 years ago when after I'd had 6 children, I gave away all of my baby things except the crib. And then we moved here to St. George, and I was about to sell the crib, and I wandered the house all day and just fussed about it and wrestled about it. And my oldest son said, "Mom, well, are you going to sell the crib?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And then he said, "Why?" And I says, "Well, because maybe in 5 more years we might have another baby." I just said it like that. Anyway, through a series of events, it's like I had 2 more amazing, beautiful children. And so it's just like I can tell that whatever I'm wrestling with there's a shift coming up in me. And I promise to myself that I'm going to get to the core of it. And I know it has to do with shifting my perspective. And I know it has to do with that part that Vanessa talked about, the compassionate self-forgiveness and forgiving myself for judging. And there's something in it about that. So I'm just like on the cusp of it and have been wrestling and fussing about it. And so what I'm committing to you and to myself is that I'm going to get there, and I'm already there. I just have to like unpeel it all and know and move forward. So thanks for just being here today and holding the space, and I'm complete.
Thank you, Nan. Thank you for your beautiful, vulnerable, and authentic share of where you're at and setting the presence of really what it looks like for us to forgive ourselves for judging ourselves. I find myself there too, and I feel your share is so honorable. So honorable. So please know that you are not alone, and we send you love and we lift you in spirit. Your breaking point will be your breakthrough. It's just around the corner, right here. Thank you for being here today. Mr. Steve Shaw. Hi, champ. Good to see you.
Oh, I thought there was someone else. Hey, Tanya, good to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to share, was just the idea of this compassionate self-forgiveness. That jumped out for me on this idea that you can actually forgive yourself. And I've probably shared this before, but that was my one real big breakthrough in being in this group, was the idea that you actually had the power to forgive yourself. I'd always grown up with forgiveness was bestowed upon me, or I forgave other people and people forgave me, and the church, my priest forgave me, but forgiving yourself, that was just, I never realized that it was a concept I never embraced until all of a sudden a lot of it had to do with last Easter and that group, Steve did his coaching for that whole talked about forgiveness, and Ankush was on. I'm not sure if he was on that call as well, but both of those and really set me down the path of realizing, wow, I don't forgive myself. It's not so the idea of I can, and I can be compassionate about it. I don't have to go, wow, boy, I was stupid for not knowing that concept or not embracing it or something. Just realizing, forgiving, and that it's a constant process, constant, So that's that for me. That's what jumped out. The idea that self forgiveness is probably one of the most valuable things I have learned, or experienced as a way of being. I kind of self forgiveness as a concept has always kind of existed, but actually as a way of being, never was a part of it until this group. So that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That particular reading or that particular experience that we had last year, it was on Easter Sunday, and it was when Ankush was present, and the intention was for us to read our declarations, our documents. And Steve woke up that morning and took a shower and said, that's not what we're doing. If they're okay with it, we're going to go a whole different direction. And really one of the greatest concepts that I got from that was, even if we ask, let's say, if we believe in a higher power, whoever that higher power is, and if it is God for you, and we all might look at God differently, but if we believe God and we ask God for forgiveness, but yet we're still holding on to whatever we've asked forgiveness for,
Yeah.
and then it's like us as the little God with a small g, is basically trumping that, where God says you have been forgiven, and yet we're still holding on to the mess and we're not forgiving ourselves for it. And so then we continue on in suffering, and we continue on in the torment of ourselves through that. And so that was very, very powerful for me as well, Steve. So if anybody hasn't watched that, it is the Easter event from season 3, and you can go back to the events and watch that. It's a very powerful reading.
I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. And again, I also want to acknowledge you for the work that you've done and your continuous way of showing up to do the work, right? It doesn't just happen, and you're showing up. So yeah. So great job, Steve.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah, you're welcome. Vanessa.
I'm here again.
Yes.
On the first part, I talk about again how I experienced that conversation with that person and how I judged him, and how I have to work in me about being a compassionate self-forgiveness. So I continue thinking about it, and at the first time when you said, Vanessa, you want to share something, what I thought, my first thought was, I'm living this. I love to learn something and practicing in my life. So everything that I've read, I'm doing it. That was my first thought. And that was the reason that I talk just a little bit. And when I finish, I start thinking, do I have to explore more in what I'm right now believing about me? And that is, you know that, Vanessa, you already don't know that. You have it in your life. so then when I got to that thinking that you know already that and you're living that, Vanessa, it's like I'm saying that that is all I can be right now. But then I read this, we work miracles once they see the judgments they place on themselves and the world. And those judgments can be that I'm doing something wrong or that I'm doing something right. Both judgments takes me to a limit. So if I say I'm doing everything right, maybe I'm right now feeling, oh yeah, I'm the best. But that feeling is also a judgment about me, and it's something that tomorrow when I get wrong, it will make me feel bad. So then I thought about this. If the result is first, that the result that I want is peace, when I'm living or experiencing or thinking about me, whatever I'm thinking about me, if I'm doing good or wrong, when I do those judgments, if I believe them, totally believe them, that's the only way it's gonna be my life, then I will not have peace. But when I take my time and I just observe this, if I'm being happy or not, that will give me peace, because I'm thinking that in every experience, I can just observe it and take what I want to live. So that is, I'm complete.
Beautiful, Vanessa. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing further. I knew there was more in you. It just needed a moment. I knew it. And so I really appreciate you raising your hand again. You know, I recognize that whenever I'm judging someone or I'm judging myself and my own peace has disappeared in that moment, truly honoring, giving them permission to have their own perspective, but recognizing the shift in my own being. If it's not in alignment with how I want to be, who do I need to be in that moment to be at peace with who I am? Is something that has really been present for me, because I can literally experience the shift when it's something that I'm not congruent with. And when I'm present with that shift, to just give myself permission to sit with it, be with it, and grow from it. And who do I need to be in that moment to tap into the things that grow me, so that way I can create the environment for myself to anchor back into peace and being who and how I want to be. So that is really what spawned your share within me to share as well. So thank you. Thank you. So beautiful. Miss Kathleen, good to see you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to thank all the readers. So beautiful. Vanessa and Elizabeth, thank you for just opening that up to where I just truly felt inspired to. I selected the stepping out into your future. I love that idea. So thank you for that. And Martha, I just wanted to say, I just love you very much. And I just appreciate our conversation we had many months ago, but I just loved you being able to read this passage where you'd spent 3 years at Santa Monica. That's very, very meaningful. I think what came up to me is the line when Steve was at Santa Monica for the very first time, and his niece had been killed. And Ron said, I had it here, but no, Ron said, we don't know what agreements we made before we came into this life. We don't know what people need to learn. And I think that's so true. You know, there's this maybe commonality of how people should act or how people should be. But if we really keep connected to our soul, our spirit, and know that we are here together, all connected, that whatever happens, we can have an acceptance of that, and we can more easily not be judgmental about it. And I just really appreciated hearing that again. And the other piece is just that importance of self-forgiveness. I mean, I just find myself kind of all day, if I can forgive myself for thoughts that are continually coming up as I move through my day, I do that. If I'm busy, I try to take note. And at the end of the day, to do that. And I thought what Steve said, I never thought of it like that, but I know I was always taught, and I say this myself to kids, oh, say you're sorry, you know, like forgive the other person. But the true strength really comes when you can forgive yourself. And I appreciated like Steve making that distinction, because like I just hadn't looked at it so clearly, like you brought that out. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Dinah, I see you have your hand back up. Yay.
I just wasn't ready last time. So when I started, I wrote in the chat, who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? And then when we were reading the front pages, the sentence, who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough and being wonderful me, stood out even stronger, but I felt the two were connected. So I underlined it in the book this time. I underlined lots in this chapter. There's so much in one chapter here. And I thought, gosh, I would love to do this course. Just sounds amazing and right up my street. But like Kathleen, the sentence that really stood out for me, it was the same. He explained that we don't know what agreements we made before we came to this life. We don't know what people need to learn. They've all had something to learn from Shara's death. And the last, I don't know how many book readings, and certainly the after parties, which have been so supportive, I've really felt that I've done so much work on myself, done so many different learnings and courses and readings, and there's always something. And last week in the after party, I said that I feel like I'm standing on one side of a gate and the rest of the world is on the other side. And it's that whole feeling of, you know, we're an onion and we strip away the layers when we do work like this. And it feels like I've stripped so many layers to get down to this part in the core. And I understand what it is that needs to be attended to. And since the last after party, I looked at the dates of the forum in London, a landmark in London, and I connected with a woman that I've been thinking about connecting with for a very long time, because I thought I really wanted to go in here. But it was that sentence, and Nanette, you said about shifting perspective, that just gave me something, because I think about what it is that's in the core as something that happened to me. And there's so much emotion wrapped up in it, and it's scary to go there. And my personal breakthrough when reading this today was, unless I learn what it is I need to learn, I'll just come back round that circle and I'll meet it in another way. And I know that for other things, but suddenly I got it for this big thing. It's the same. There was a lesson for me. And yes, shit happened, but it's what can I learn from it? And I know that sounds really simple, but it felt like a bit of a breakthrough. So yeah, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dinah, for sharing your breakthrough with us. You know, it does sound easy, right? But to actually apply it when we are feeling, why is this happening to me? You know, why am I going through this? But truly, if we can just back that up and restructure the question as, how is this growing me? And what is this teaching me? And as a possibility, it is absolutely purposeful for me to get to the next level of understanding, to the next level of self-love, to the next level of forgiveness, and just always honoring that we are whole and complete as we are. We're the only ones thinking we're not. But without the stripping away and the unlayering. But I love also what Jeff Mars put in the chat, and he said, stop shooting people. And it's even stop shooting ourselves. You know, it's really, because how many times do we say, oh, I should do this, or oh, I should do that? But if we can truly just own it, and I still have breath in life. If I want to, then I can still create that as a possibility. And I love what Chris Smith shared this week about possibility. And he says, possibility is infinite. We are born with infinite possibility. However, we create limitations. We create limitations. Like that for me was just, like, how simple is that? But we create the limitation from the previous conditioning or an experience that we have experienced, or even somebody else's judgment of ourselves that then we might own as our truth for ourselves. But then it goes back to that self-forgiveness, that who do I need to be love right now, here in this moment, when I'm judging myself or I feel judged by someone else as well? Who do I need to be gentle and send love, not only to myself, but to that person as well for judging? And then let it go. But wow, that just, I really appreciate your share, Dinah. Thank you so much for being here weekly and doing the work with us, peeling those layers, like you said, of the onion. You know, as you get to the deeper layer, you feel a little bit more naked, a little bit more bare, a little bit more raw. But again, what if that is part of the journey? How can we enjoy the journey, even in the hard part? And I love here in the book where it says that consistent growth and improvement seem totally normal. What if we just looked at this part of our growth, even in the hard part, even in the messy part? Because I can attest, there's a lot of mess in my life. At times, it is messy. But what if that mess has to happen for us to receive the message? That has to happen for us to really have a greater and deeper understanding, to create that new mountaintop. And then once we learn that lesson, that becomes the new floor. That becomes the new floor, right? The ceiling becomes the new floor. And so through every breaking point, that might feel like, even if wow, I've done so much. I thought I dealt with this like so long ago, and then something will happen where we're triggered, or it'll come up again, or a deeper layer of that. And it's like, but I thought I already worked through this. And then what if that just has to happen? That becomes then the new floor for us to get to the new ceiling. Like that, it's part of the journey. And truly enjoying the journey is, I think the result becomes personal peace. when we can learn to do that. So thank you. I really appreciate your share, Dinah. That's what
Thanks,
came up for
Sandra.
me with your share. Thank you. Yeah. Miss Andrea. Hello, beautiful.
Hello. So thank you for the beautiful reading. Thank you. My question that I was listening through was, who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? And Amy at London, we met in the queue to the loo. Hey, that rhyme. The queue to the loo, Alex. And it was actually 11:11. Wow, that's even cooler. She said to me something that, I mean, we're just standing there in a queue, and she said, "You are a gentle power." She acknowledged me as a gentle power, and I just remembered that now through this question. And I also remember Steve saying that you are powerful, and not really receiving it or believing it. And like Ayanna, she also had a similar experience of being told she's powerful and sort of not embracing it or really owning it. So in what I got today was listening. I remember those acknowledgements of me being in my power. And yesterday, actually, Jeff sent me this amazing thing. His speedometer was at like 222 and 333, and he says, "I was going to the gas station and I thought of you." And you know, I thought that was funny because I thought, I hope it's not about like gas or something, but no, it was because the numbers were aligned, and I see all these signs of alignment. When I'm in alignment, I see all kinds of wondrous signs all around me, including, and yesterday I've been tracking a flight to Phoenix to go to the Ultimate Experience, the 2nd anniversary. And guess what numbers it came up at? 111, like 111 each direction. So it was like right on. Spirit is giving me like the thumbs up. So I'm in my power when I'm listening from here. I'm connected to source. I'm creator. I am moved by spirit, and that's actually in my document. So I'm trusting my intuition. I'm listening or seeing the sign, and that's in alignment. And then I take an action. So when it feels good, when it feels like aligned. So I'm trusting spirit more and more and more, and listening for it. Have to be really, really still and peaceful and to hear it, but it's there in all of us. So here's another synchronicity. So as I was listening for that, who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future, my book is cracked open to the page that I highlighted on creation, and it says, creation is the heart of Steve's coaching. He helps every client create a deliberately chosen and powerful way of being. Every client discards ways of being that do not serve him. So it's just like it's cracked open to that page. So yeah, you can't see it, but just stuff like that. So I love this. I love this chapter. I love all of you, and I can't wait. I can't wait to be with you in person in January.
Thank you, Andrea. And again, no synchronicities, right? Or it's all in alignment exactly the way it's supposed to be. And you were speaking at exactly 11:11 here on the East Coast as you were sharing. So um, just wanted to point that out to you. And as a possibility, that book is cracked open to the exact page it's supposed to be cracked open to. So in its openings to crack you open to in that to honor and receive those acknowledgments, because I find them as true for you as well. So thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Mars, so happy you're here today, and I'd love to hear your share, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts, some things that occurred to me in response to what you said about other people judging us. And these readings are just miraculous. Thank you, everyone, for your shares. So, some thoughts I have on that. I have, for me, the fundamental foundation of creation is language. Like how the world appears for us is created in our language, our beliefs, our listenings, etc. So a couple of my core beliefs are happiness comes from inside, and all judgment is ultimately self-judgment. So when going back to this chapter, I'm judging my wife as not what was the word Steve said, but whatever. I'm just judging my wife. Ultimately, I forgive myself for being the one who's judging my wife is judging me. So I'm not sure where judgment comes from. I think if we build ourselves to the ground up, soul, spirit, mind, and body, I don't think judgment really comes from our soul or our spirit. It comes from the default being of human being. I almost think of it like a virus, metaphorically referred to in the eating of the apple in the Garden of Eden, where we become the judges of what's right and wrong, what's good and evil. So ultimately, to get down to who I am at my core is my desire to release judgment. And it's like a mountain without a top, but it's a continuous process to strip away judgment. So as a possibility, when I experience someone else judging me, the other side of forgiveness is blessing. So when I experience someone else judging me, I recognize as a possibility, not always, that what's really happening over there is that the judgment that's inside of them is ultimately self-judgment. And it gives me the opportunity to be compassionate towards them and to bless them. Because if we were ultimately free of all judgment, this wouldn't be happening. Like if I was stripped away to my purest core at my very center, I would never judge another person. And what's going on over there is the same thing that's going on in me. What I believe is probably going on in all human beings is that if judgment is self-judgment, really, when I think I'm judging you, I'm really judging me. So it gives me an opportunity to be compassionate towards the other person for whatever judgment is happening over there in them, and bless them in their judgment of me, in a sense. So you judge me, I bless you for having that judgment over inside of you, and I desire for you to release all self-judgment.
What a magnificent and powerful share, Jeff. Wow. I can resonate with that even just through personal experiences recently. So thank you so much for sharing. I think I'm going to go back and re-listen to that about 3 times or maybe 10. So thank you. Your presence is very valued here. So thank you. Maria, would you like to share?
Yes, actually, it kind of, Jeff reminded me of something, and I was speaking with somebody the other day about judgment and what their thoughts were on it. And it has made me think since then about what they said. And they said that they think that judgments are a way for our brain to organize, and that we take them a lot farther than that. Like we're organized, like you look at somebody, oh, they're wearing red shoes. That's not necessarily a judgment, but then we add on to that. Right. And so they were saying it was an interesting thought that they are patterns that we have that are meant to pass through and not to stay. Does that make sense? Anyways, I just thought it was such an interesting way to think about that, because it had kind of piggybacked on something I've been thinking lately, which is, what is the purpose of negative emotion? Like what am I supposed to do with that? And so I've been thinking a lot about how we're not supposed to land in negative emotion. We can feel sadness or shame or regret or any of those things we would consider negative, but we're meant to pass through and learn and not stay. And I've really found that in the past, I, say somebody has hurt me, or the judgment that we're talking about, or my perception is that they've hurt me, that I stay there instead of pass through and let that moment lead, guide, and inspire me. So that was my thought on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for sharing. Andrea, see your hand again.
Just to add on to Maria's comment, and also I was sent a clip on self-forgiveness. Steve sent it to me. It's 1 minute and 43 seconds. Also, Mr. Rogers' code for I love you. So if anyone wants it, please put your name in the comments, and I'll direct message you. And the second thing is what Maria said about something you said reminded me about Thich Nhat Hanh said something about how we add stuff on. So it's like a flower, like if we use first generational words, it's a flower, it's water, it's a mountain. Our mind adding on judgments or other words, that takes us away from the essence of the thing. So, and the experience of the thing. So coming back to being just flower, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Andrea. It brings me back to that point in the book as well, where Steve said, where it says on the Amy project, his goal was to know his wife in the most intimate way available on the planet, but yet somebody else's perspective could be that he's stalking her. So it's, perception and judgment of no one knows the reality of it. And it's just, it doesn't matter. It's your own perception and how you receive it. And so for me, I thought, who do I need to be to know my husband in the most intimate way available on the planet? Yeah, that really planted a seed for me. So I appreciate Amy's writing here. Mr. Steve Shaw will be our last share before we move on to our closing and then move into the afterglow, named by Miss Shauna here today. Steve, would you like to share?
Yeah. Just what Jeff said kind of really, wow, kind of hit me when you talked about forgiveness. I mean, in the Garden of Eden, eating the apple, giving us all knowledge, because I never understood really part of what the eating of the apple, why having the having all knowledge, eating from the tree of knowledge was bad. I thought that, but the way you explained it, so can you just, because that just resonated with me. We became full of judgments from that act, or having all knowledge. That means we judge. Jeff, I don't know if you could answer that, because that kind of just struck me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not a theologian, and this
No,
is just a
that's all right.
story. Just a story I wrote for myself. The story that I wrote for myself is that what happened. This is a metaphor. I acknowledge and respect everyone's personal belief system and whether they take the Bible literally as true or not. But for me, that story is a metaphor to explain how judgment is like a virus that infects our being of human being. So by eating the apple, eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we have become the judge. We take over the power to judge something as good or bad. And now we live our lives constantly judging. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what infects us on top of who we truly are at our core, which is just accepting and loving what is.
You know, that really gets me, you know, like I really, for me, that was a brilliant share because that's how I see it. Like there's something, you know, the idea of all of a sudden being the judge, right? That's not only one person is the judge, right? So the idea that spend our lives judging is not, and that stems from that. Wow, that's very powerful. So that's my big thing today. So thank you, Jeff.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your beautiful shares. I am so moved and filled from today's reading. And at this time, I would love to pass it on to my beautiful co-host, Miss Maria Engren, to share what she has some special things for us today in her share. So, Maria, it's all yours, sweetie.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to save my share till the end.
Okay.
So today, it is my job and my privilege to say thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to our readers, for the Elizabeth and Vanessa. Thank you for front and back of the book. You know, every person. Okay, I'm a teacher, so and I teach about talking and singing and communicating, and so when people say things, they emphasize an important word that's important to them. And so that's one way I listen. So when you are reading the front and the back of the book, it tells me and it tells all of us where your heart is and your thoughts by the way you pull out things, by the way you emphasize things. So for me, I love having the different readers each week because then it prompts me for something new. You know, I've read this chapter like you guys probably so many times, and it's just full, chocked full. So I really want to say thank you to all the readers, and to Martha, of course, thank you so much. You are a treasure. You are a treasure. You're a precious jewel in my life. So thank you. Thank you for your beautiful reading. Of course, thank you to Tanya, my fearless leader in Team Tuck, who is an amazing leader. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for your beautiful shares and for, giving your time. I really appreciate that. It blesses all of us, right? Okay, and of course, everybody who's here, no matter who shares, I didn't come here expecting to hear what Jeff said, right? But when he said it, it just was like, wow, now I have something like boom, exactly, like mind blown. Think about something new, and it has to do with the chapter and yet takes you beyond. And so I thank you all for your beautiful shares. That's amazing. Okay, so don't forget this Wednesday. I know it's the night before Thanksgiving for us here in the States, but it will be a wonderful way to close out your evening on Wednesday to come join us. This is the Iyanla Vanzant chapter. And our guest reader will be Donna Hall. So that should be really exciting and wonderful. And I'm very excited to be there. I'm sure you guys all know about our 2 upcoming events, the one in Arizona, which we've been talking about quite a bit here today. And the 2nd anniversary of that, I got just a mini chance to talk to Judy Thurston the other day. And she said, we have them blocked out every minute they're doing something. So I know it's going to be a really exciting time for everyone there. And they've put so much work and so much love into that event. And I can say the same thing about the Birmingham. One of our team members is also on the Birmingham team, Elizabeth. So she keeps us up with that. And just continue to say thank you to both of those groups for what they're doing. Don't forget, if you need help with any, like getting linked up with on any of this, any of us here can help you. Just put your name in the link and we'll fix you up. All right. So definitely thank you for even thinking about going, I'm not able to go to either one this year, and at first I was like, big lower lip. And then I decided that there's ways that I can support from back home, kind of keep the home fires burning. And so we'll see what that role ends up for me to be, but that's where my mind is for those two. Don't forget that we have all kinds of resources out there, like YouTube, podcast, LinkedIn, the digest, the weekly digest. Make sure you're taking advantage of those to keep your, we're also busy. It's easy to get off track there. So make sure you're keeping those. All right. So my share today, I kind of shared with you a little bit, this chapter is huge. I think there's 3 like really big sections. And I remember the last time I went through this section, the Amy and Steve story was what I concentrated on. That was just like, it just filled my mind. And I imagined what it would be like to, have somebody love you in that fashion. And so that was beautiful for me. But this time when I went through, I really got struck by the same thing that a lot of you got struck by, which is that very last, that compassionate self-forgiveness. And I've been trying, no, not trying. I have been using compassionate self-forgiveness with myself. The hardest thing for me with that is sometimes catching it and realize that I'm swirling in that negative thing. And so, your emotions then start to get involved with that. And that's what I've noticed, like I said, about the shame, is how much when I start to get involved in the negative emotions of whatever I'm thinking, that's when it takes me down the wrong path. So just for me trying to catch that, that first moment, you kind of do that, man, and then trying to catch that and reprogram my thinking. So something that I did yesterday is I, of course, went through the book and outlined that whole thing. And then right now in the chat, I took that little, what's it called? Oh, Steve's little, kind of formula. I don't know what else to call it at the end. And I just put it in a format that I could put on my phone. Whereas, where I'm judging, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I could just pull it up quick, or I could share it with somebody who was struggling with some self-forgiveness as a quick little thing. So I thought I would share that for you today. And maybe somebody can be blessed along the way, learning about how to start self-forgiveness. Because I think that's kind of the hardest part, is just learning what it means and accepting your own forgiveness. So. All right, so that's my share. But the last thing I wanted to share is this. Team Tuck has been working super hard and very excited about bringing the arts into our book reading. And what I mean by that is that as artists, we, including myself, I'm a vocalist, express ourselves through our art. And by expressing ourselves through our art, we can enhance everybody's life. I don't know if you have a song out there that you've heard and you're like, that song says everything I've ever wanted to say, but didn't know how to put the words together. Or if you've ever seen a dance where somebody danced and their body told the story of your heart. Or if you look at a painting and it reminds you of a loved one. Art can bring out more. So we were talking about how to do this. So I have my feelers out. And if you are an artist, and I don't mean professional, okay, I don't believe that we need professional artists. If you are a person who expresses themselves through an art form, we would love to have you participate in this book reading in a chapter that might move you. So that's my open invitation for everybody here. Poetry, a sewing project, a banner, a mural, a song, a letter, anything that is creative, that moves you. We want to share that. And so I told everyone I would be the first to share. So today I have picked a song that means a lot to me. It's a song, it's from Wicked, and it's called For Good. And it is when Elphaba and Galinda, they've been roommates in college. And this is where they're parting ways because they've come to find out that they are very different people and their lives cannot continue together. But they love each other. And so this is the song that they sang to each other in that musical. And for me, this says everything that's in my heart. So here it goes. Let me take a little drink. All right. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. And I know that I believe it's true. And I know I'm who I am today because I know you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun. Like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. And I say that I've been changed for the better. And because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now I know whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship thrown from its mooring by a wind off the sea. Like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. I can say that I've been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. I love you. I hope that enhanced your day here today, and those precious words. I mean every word from my heart to each of you. Thank you. All right, so the last part of this is we get to say hello, goodbye to everyone and move into the after party. So everybody unmute yourself. And I know I wish you the most amazing week and day. And I know we have this thankfulness in the week this week, and we have a whole week to really just be in gratefulness. I listened to a beautiful Muji this week. I think that's how you say him. Anyways, he said, if you don't have anything to be thankful for, just start saying it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So anyways, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love you.
Thank
And
you,
goodbye,
thank
everyone.
you,
Have a
thank
great
you.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Don't expect me to sing like that.
Everyone. Jeff.